listening to The Bob Dean Show, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hey, and welcome back to episode of The Bob Dean Show. Yay. New background. This is what the apartment really looks like, guys. We're in the middle of painting and remodeling. So this is it. I want to thank Cindy Bell. I'm sorry. Cindy Bell was our scheduled guest today. She's lovely, and she'll be on another time. But she had a little emergency that knocked her out. And for those that I tried to get a hold of at the last minute, thanks for the consideration. Today, though, guests are great, fabulous. My cousin, Ken Bozick, and Boyer Barner is joining us just by the sound of his voice. Hey, Kenny. Hey, Boyer.
Hello.
Hey, Bobby. Good to see you, buddy.
Can you hear me?
So here's the story, guys. My cousin Ken and I grew up together. We spent summers at my Baba's farm, Serbian for grandmother, in Brownsville, Pennsylvania. And Boyer Barner is a bon vivant of Nashville, Tennessee. Originally from, where are you from? You're in Wisconsin?
St. Louis.
St. Louis, same thing. But Boyer has been in Nashville for many, many, many years. And 40 years, wow. And it's just great to have you. Boyer, you've been on before. It's great to have you back. And Ken, good to see you, cousin.
Great to see you, buddy.
So today we're just going to fly by the seat of our pants and have a talk. I'm going to go into a little bit. Let's talk about Ken first. Kenny, your dad and your mom and dad were just my favorites, John and Judy. And, you know, they're both up there in heaven with Stella and Bob.
Stella and Bob, that's right.
Yep. And your dad he scored the first touchdown at the first Liberty Bowl game, right? To win it for Penn State.
No, I don't think he scored the touchdown. No, he didn't score the touchdown, but what he did do is he was able to catch the longest pass from scrimmage that, you know, in that day, which was hysterical because by that standards it was the longest pass, but today it was 20 yards.
Things have changed, huh?
Things have changed, yeah. Three downs and a cloud of dust. You know, that's the way they used to roll back then, but not today.
I remember my mom telling me that your dad got hurt in one game, and Bubba, as we say, is our grandmother, went down into the locker room and like pushed Paterno out of the way to find out if her boy was good, something like that. It was a real cute story.
That does not surprise me a bit.
You know, your dad, my mom and your dad were especially close out of the 9 Bozick kids. And I remember mom telling me a story when your father was, he was in school or something, but he was staying with mom and dad, and he would have been in his early 20s and mom in her like late 20s or whatever. But your dad accidentally brushed his teeth with some kind of hemorrhoidal cream or something from the.
And here's the thing, though, Bob. He probably didn't notice the difference. You know.
Well, I remember that house. You guys lived in that house in Pennsylvania, and we came to visit. And it was a really cool house, but the kitchen door was on the second floor, and it just opened up, and there was no stairway. It just fell.
I think that one was when we were little guys, and we were still living in State College.
Yeah, because it would have been about 72.
Yeah. So that. Well, no, we moved to Pennsylvania. I mean, back to Pittsburgh in about 66, 7, something like that. So it must have been when we were really young, because I remember that was the house in Boalsburg, PA, which is near State College, and you guys are still living over there near Philly, if I remember right at that time.
Yeah, we were in now historic Levittown.
Yeah, and
but
so
that's where we're. Go ahead.
No, but that's probably when you came over to visit, because that was that dangerous door that my mother was terrified of. It opened up and it was like, whoa, here you go.
Earliest childhood memories when you open up that door and look straight. I believe it was your mother that said, "Don't go anybody go near this kitchen door." And then the cornfield started right outside the backyard.
Yep, that's the one. That was the house in Boalsburg, Pennsylvania. Yeah.
And you and your brother, your brother Bruce, my cousin Bruce, had done something that your dad was really irritated about, and he came out with that. You guys were in the cornfield. You weren't supposed to be, something like that. And he was yelling for you guys, and you said, he's like, "Get over here right now, boys." And you said, "Are we going for a haircut, Dad?" And he laughed so much he couldn't get sore at you.
Yeah, child psychology works sometimes. You never know.
Well, Boyer, how you doing, buddy?
I was doing great when I was out at the pool.
Yeah, well, what's the humidity level there now?
It's fairly humid, but I was sitting in the shade
In the shade.
with a little breeze, so it was pretty
well, you
nice.
should be out that Nordic skin of yours. You should be getting a tan.
I've got a pretty good one going.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about Nashville as well as we upcome. But Boyer moved to Nashville 40 years ago. And what was the name of your paper? I cannot friggin' remember to save my life.
Just Nashville in Review.
Nashville in Review. Boyer published a newspaper that was really, really popular and informative and well written in Nashville for a very long time. And I tell you, I always tell the story, but the first time that I ever saw you, because I'd heard your name about town, you were, a businessman about town, and I was behind the bar at Faison's, and that silver BMW across the street, and you jumped out, and you looked like a model. It looked like this commercial, because Boyer, if you can't see him, ladies and gentlemen, he's tall and blonde and a very handsome guy, and you jumped out of that car and you had your hand on your tie and you whisked your head like this, and that blonde hair went like this, and I'm like, who is this asshole? Who is this dude that's going to come in and ask me to make something like a shaken martini? But you turned out to be one of the coolest guys and one of the best friends I had at home, and I miss you.
Yeah, I wish you were back here. You
How's
wouldn't
Cindy?
recognize. You remember that 12 South Avenue when you worked at the Mirror?
Yeah.
So 12 South is now a big tourist destination, and it's got dozens of shops in apartment buildings, and you would not recognize it.
Well, Boyer, I honestly and truly have made a vow, and this is not a joke, that somebody's going to die and I'm going to have to come back for a service or something.
Yeah.
But until then, I'm never coming back to Nashville. I can't do it. My heart won't take it. When Keith Garston sent me a picture of the Gold Rush,
Yeah.
when it was just the front, I mean, the saloon windows and the door and everything else behind it gone. That was it. I said no.
Yeah, they just left the facade, and now I think Tony Giartano, that big real estate guy, and maybe Randy Rayburn, they want to redo it, but everything would be gone, and they just would retain the facade.
So the front's still there, though, and they want to build on.
It was a few months ago.
Yeah, it was a few months ago, but it's funny because you may have remembered me discussing this with you, because when we would go, you'd hang out with me at Mirror sometimes, and you and Cindy live right up the street, so we'd hang out and have a drink, and I was just telling you how things were going to change so quickly, and I saw the same thing happen on Miami Beach, and that's when I made the decision to move to LA. I was like, this is going to happen here, so I might as well go west where everybody's coming from. And
yeah, you made a good decision.
Yeah, and everything. I was talking to Julia Cargyle. I don't know if you remember her or not. Julia Hamilton Cargyle. She's a Nashville native, and she is a school teacher. She's semi-retired. But we were talking, about a year ago, and she
Was
said,
your dad the guy who wore the skirt?
"No, that was Neil Cargyle.
Okay.
No relation, but remember him, Kenny? There was this guy back when Nashville was a small town, and it was very cool. It was the most, we were damn Yankees, because Dad moved his business to Nashville in '74 because he foresaw that growth. He was just like 40 years ahead of his time.
Right.
But Nashville was such a small community that whether you went to public or private school, we formed a social circle all on the west side of town. Neil Cargyle was he was he was like a developer.
He was an engineer from Vandy, and he was a pilot, airplane pilot, and inventor, and had lots of money. He hung out with all the Belle Meade people, and he wore a skirt and hose and heels with a blue blazer.
He would wear a blue blazer and a club tie and a white shirt with a skirt and hose and heels, and that was when he was just considered eccentric, because he ran with the upper echelon, the cream of Nashville. And it was so funny because you'd see him at a party and you never really pointed at him, because it was like, oh wow, I finally got a glimpse of Neil Cargyle, and he died from malaria or something. I seem to remember.
The New Yorker did a big story on him 30 years ago.
Yeah. I think he died from malaria. So he was working on some project or whatever. Wow. But yeah, Nashville. It's just the last time I was there was when I went back to get the townhouse ready to re-rent. And then
after the flood?
No, before.
Okay.
And then the flood came, and I didn't come back because all my insurance that's a really bad subject for me because, not only myself but everybody. So many people lost so much, and there's all kinds of conjecture I've learned going around our old social circle about how I handle things, And the fact of the matter is that my Robbins Insurance Agency, everybody at Burton Hills. When I'm not going to go on about me, but it was ugly. I did everything right. I just didn't cross a T and dot an I because I put it all in my agent's hand, who mom and dad had been dealing with for years and years. And that one little loophole prevented a lot of money to rebuild. But FEMA basically, bailed so many people out. But because I lived in my dingy bachelor pad, I wasn't eligible for a nickel of relief from FEMA. So, even though I didn't own the land, it's just a long and painful story. But I haven't been back. I went back to remodel. I stayed here during the flood because, was getting the place construction ready. But all my paperwork and everything was here. And then it just turned out where it was a lost cause. So that was a real heartbreak. But then when everything, it's just changing so much, I just don't want to go back, And because... Oh, that's what Julia was saying. I take that back. She said, Bob Dean, she's like Julia Sugarbaker. She said, I've lived in this town my entire life, and I had to go downtown to do some commerce the other day. And she said, I was lost for 2 hours. Couldn't find my way around, didn't recognize a thing.
All the landmarks are gone, the visuals when you're driving around. And I've gotten lost.
Now, are you still in Belmont, the Belmont area there?
Yeah.
And how's Cindy doing?
She's doing great.
And is her shop still in the same place in Belmead?
Yeah, right next to the Belmead Mansion.
We have to give a plug to Cindy Earl.
Fine Jewelry. Cindy
Earl Fine Jewelry. She is Boyer's significant other, and I've known her since I was 17 years old. We worked together at the Sailmaker. And she
really?
Oh, yeah. She was a cocktail waitress, and I was a busboy. She's a fiery redhead, as southern as they can be, and she's a true lady through and through. And she has the finest custom jewelry shop in all of the South, which is Cindy Earl Fine Jewelry in Belmead. So, yeah, for Cindy Earl. So, now, Kenny, let's go over to you for a minute because we're going to go back and forth. How's retirement? Kenny,
doesn't suck. Let's put it that way.
You were with the Merchant Marine for a very long time.
No, actually, I wasn't, Bob. When I graduated, it was one of those years that you couldn't find a job, you couldn't buy a job. I mean, I had a few $1,000 in my pocket. I would try to get out of the union hall and say, "Hey, can you get me a job?" And they wouldn't even take the money because they said, "Sorry, it's just not happening." So I was able to get into the Navy and got into flight school and flew for the Navy. So I did that for 23 years. And had a ball doing that, but and then retired out of the Navy and went to work for the federal government, which was like having a root canal every day. So, we when I finally had enough of that bullshit, went ahead and retired and came down here to Texas and been loving life ever since. So it's been great.
What part of Texas are you guys in?
We're in a town called Keller, which is about 20 minutes north of Fort Worth. So we're in that Dallas. They call it the Metroplex, the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And so, we love it. It's a nice community down here. And the nice thing about it is where my wife, Vicky, her sister and her husband live about 10 minutes away. He's a retired Navy guy also, but he's a pilot for Southwest. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I know we got a pool, and a pool just makes it.
Yeah.
All you need is a pool to be happy, in my opinion.
We have the pool, and it's just awesome. Like I said, I mean, like about right now, it's like kind of jumping into bathwater, but other than that,
yeah,
it's still better than nothing.
I have to tell the story about one of the biggest, people that know me know that I probably have ADD. I've never been tested, but Sometimes that was the most colossal mistake, embarrassing mistake I've ever made. Was it a year ago or 2 years ago when you guys came here?
Oh, yeah, about a year. Yeah, about a year.
Okay,
ago.
so Boyer, you got a picture of this, Boyer Barner and Sam. Ken and Vicky and another couple, friends of theirs, came to Long Beach because they were going on a cruise. So I said, yeah, we'll meet you. And we were going to meet at this restaurant that my buddy owns, and I can't remember the name to save my life, that swank Italian place in downtown.
It was L'Opera.
L'Opera.
Right.
God.
Remember that?
Sorry, Terry, the owner of L'Opera. Well, so
it's important to the story.
Yes, it is. Well, Dennis and I drove down and met you guys at the hotel. Then we just decided that it would be easier to take two cars. And it was Friday afternoon, and I had never been past this one exit on the expressway to Long Beach, and we were like 4 down. So I said, we all took off, and I said to Dennis, well, let's just take, the PCH or whatever it was. And it was Friday afternoon, and it was bumper to bumper traffic in Southern California, and on my mother's grave, Ken, I swear I thought I was on the right route, and I do not know how we went under the 405 expressway. We didn't go over it or under it. I'm telling you, it was Twilight Zone. And I'm like, damn it. I thought it would take us 30 minutes, and it's getting later and later and later. And I can see the skyline. And I'm like, wow, Long Beach, because Long Beach has an impressive skyline,
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it. I'm like, wow, it really looks different from the opposite side. So literally an hour and a half later, we're coming up behind the damn courthouse in Los Angeles. And Dennis is like, this is LA. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I hadn't had a cocktail or anything. And we had bypassed it. We ended up all the way in downtown LA. It was like 4 hours later, we got to meet you guys. And you were so kind. And seriously, that's an incident I will never be able to live down.
Oh, brother, I want to tell you, that was when you gave us these calls and updates and what was happening. I mean, we were just like, hey, all of us had been there, done that kind of thing at one point in time. But at the same time, we're kind of chuckling because the reason why I brought up the restaurant's name is L'Opera, right? It was because Dennis going to
say that again.
He said Dennis thought that you guys were going to LA Opera, like down in LA.
Oh, that's what happened, and that's why he put it in the phone, and that's exactly what happened.
Put it in the right. And I'll tell you, when Dennis told me that, we were cracking up left and right. He goes, "Oh my God!"
It was came out behind the friggin' Opera House. Oh my God! Yep.
Yeah, we all had a great laugh about that, and I'll tell you, you and Dennis were able to get there and at least spend about an hour or so and stuff and whatever.
The time that we had together was a blast.
Oh, it was awesome, man. And I cherished it very much, because like I said, I hadn't seen you in a long time, but at the same time, it was great to see you. And I just wish my friends John and Laurie would have been able to stick around. I know they had to leave a little bit earlier, but still, it was a lot of fun. And by the way, you can tell your friend who owns the place, thank you, man. They were very the table there, and we waited a little bit, and then we ordered dinner, and then we had dinner, and then we had dessert, and then and then you finally arrived, and they could have easily kicked us out if they wanted to, but
yeah,
they were very nice.
Terry, the owner's a great guy. I did get a little miffed with him when he sold his '58 Impala convertible. But he's a great guy. And you know what happened in the riots that hit LA, and I know they hit all over, but the restaurant was badly damaged in the riots in Long Beach. So he's back and everything's groovy. But yeah, that was a sad day. But yeah, that was a fun day. Yeah. I'll never be able to live it down. Stupid maps and Google Maps and all that stuff. It's supposed to make life easier. Well, for me, I keep it in that thing in the console, and you glance down and the thing's going rerouting and it's going all over the place. And there's like 3 different. I just don't get technology, nor do I care to. But I put that on everything. Is this my internet that's screwing up, man, Sam? So Boyer, back to you. You there?
Here. Yep.
What else is going on? What is your Now we were talking about 12 South, Mirror Restaurant, where Colleen and Michael DeGregory, who are now back in Nashville, pioneered the restaurant. And what was it before? It was that seafood place.
Laurel's.
It was Laurel's. Laurel's was a legendary restaurant that was downtown, and they opened up their satellite. 12 South, ladies and gentlemen, that was a very historic area of Nashville. And around between
well, back then it had a lot of crack houses.
Oh no, but I mean prior to that, around the turn of the century, it was the place to live. And then it turned into and like up around Belmont Boulevard where the mansions, and then you go further south toward the fairgrounds where the Speedway was. And there are bungalows and things like that now. That
you know what those bungalows cost now?
I was just going to say, please don't tell me.
On 12 South, you'd be lucky to get one for 1.2.
Oh my God! And what they were $20,000.
Well, maybe 150. That was
20
years ago.
It turns my stomach. Next time, Boyer, you go by 2401 Belmont.
Okay.
It's a beautiful mansion, and that's where Judy Barr. Hi, Judy, because I know you watch and listen. Oh, by the way, we're not live streaming on my Facebook page because I forgot because I was a mess here. But Judy and Jeff, we were roommates and we lived on the upper floor of that, and that place is huge. I mean, my bedroom must have been 600 square feet, 700 square feet.
2401 Belmont?
2401 Belmont.
Okay.
And I can't remember the street that's right across the street that goes down to 12 South, but it's a show place now. And that was the party house. It was crazy, and we had water fights, and we called it the veranda, which is the roof of the porch. This place is right out of Gone with the Wind. And we were having a water fight one day. Judy and I were running around and throwing buckets of water on each other. And we threw she threw a bucket at me. I dodged it, but we didn't hear it splash on the walkway. And we both went and like kind of peeked over like this. And this couple who had to be, we were like 20, 21 years old at the time. I would guess they were maybe 30 to 35 years old. They had just bought the house, and they were standing down there holding hands, looking at their new home and investment when we threw a bucket of water and it clocked them. And they were just standing there soaking wet, staring up. And the guys, I'm like, hello. And they're like, I am Joe Blow, and this is my home. We just bought it. We're like, please don't throw us out. Please, please. But they put us to work in the garden for a long time. But that place is where we lived. And then 12 South was Laurel's was the first place back, but it was a bad neighborhood, and crack, drugs were rampant and everything. As a matter of fact, that market across the street, does Miss Daisy still own that?
Across from
where Mirror and Trim.
No. There's a place called 12 South Tap Room. So that used to be, it's been a restaurant and tap room for 15 years or so. Okay.
Well, because when Colleen and Mike opened Mirror, and Dickie Soloperto did the gorgeous mosaic mirror in there. Dickie is a local tilesmith artist in Nashville. And then Trim, we shared that building. Trim was like the salon to the stars.
Yeah.
And those two upscale businesses, and then a little bit further down, KDK had her shop. But other than that, it was just all these, it was drug dealers and everything. And we called that store across the street the Crack and Suds. It was like a 7-Eleven, an independently owned 7-Eleven. And Colleen had named it the Crack and Suds because they sold beer and crack. And I was so mean. I went across the street and got the number. This is way before cell phones, guys. They were just being developed, or they were still like really big. And I got the number off the payphone. And whenever somebody would come up, and you could see him just chomping at the bit by that phone, and I'd call it up, and you'd watch them right across the street, and they'd be like, "Hello," and I'd be like, "The police are watching the lot," and then I'd hang up. And these poor people that were just jonesing for a fix would just go tearing off, One time, Trim was where Wynonna Judd and the Judds all got their hair done, and all these big stars and everything, Brooks and Dunn and everything. And what was her name? Melanie owned it, right? Is Trim still there, Boyer?
I think it They moved out like 6 months ago.
Okay, well, Melanie, I don't remember her last name. She was the owner, and she's the one that got impaled. She was throwing a party.
Impaled.
She had a house somewhere over in y'all's neighborhood, and she was throwing a party for the staff. And she was coming down the stairs, and she had these 2 wrought iron sconces that had tips, like sword tips at the top. And she was real thin. Well, she slipped, and that thing went through her back and through her body and came up out of her chest. All right.
Oh my God.
Crazy. You remember that? It was a crazy story. And she was sitting on the bottom step of the stairs. I guess she had her cell phone or could reach the phone, and she dialed 911. And the cop came, and he had a bad attitude. He's knocking on the screen door, and she's like, "Come in." And he comes in, opens the door, and she's sitting there. And he's like, "Well, what's your emergency, lady?" And she goes, "This," and she points, because that thing had gone completely through her torso, but missed every major organ, like her heart by like this much.
Oh my God.
So she's sitting there when the thing's coming out of her chest, and the cop passed out. He was like, they were able to, get that thing out of her and save her. But once they had a sign out front that said manicures half off on one of those sandwich boards. So, of course, being Bob Dean, I called over there and I'm like, "Hello, I see your sign outside says 50% off manicures." And the new girl was behind the desk and she goes, "Yes, sir." And I said, "Well, I'm a quadriplegic and I only have one arm. Does that mean I get 50% off?" She was like, and she puts me on hold. Poor little thing. So, she was running around talking to every queen in that place going, "What do I do? What do I do?" And she comes back and she's like, "I'm sorry, sir, but we don't offer that discount." I was like, "Well, that sucks." Hung up, but just a little bit of fun and frolic there. But yeah, but it's like the place to be. And the Gulch, I've seen pictures. It was Kay West put up a picture. And hi, Kay West. She's just a bon vivant and a writer from Food Critic and all that. And just an amazingly interesting person is Miss Kay West. But the Gulch is where 12th and Porter was like an original rock and roll club.
That's how we would drive home through the Gulch when we were drunk.
Of course,
because there was never a cop there. There was nothing there.
What was that blues place where they had the airplane, all the mixed seats, like airplane seats and all that? And they
You mean the Station Inn?
Station Inn. Kenny, this place
still
is
there.
so cool. This place was like this little honky tonk and it was like the finest country and blues pickers and players.
Not country and blues. It was just bluegrass.
Love it.
Bluegrass. I beg your pardon. Well, mix them together. And but they served the canned beer out of the coldest old Westinghouse refrigerator you ever saw. That was the bar. And there was just a mix of seats, but boy, you never knew who you were going to run into in that place. That was fun. That was when Nashville was.
Sounds like awesome fun.
Yeah, man. And then you go right down to where that Exxon was, and then you go down the hill. And 12th and Porter, Jody Faison, who I hope he's well, but he was a pioneer in these boutique restaurants. And then across the street in the old hotel, he opened Cafe 123.
Yep.
Which is when I came back.
I don't think that was a hotel.
It was.
It was a garage, like a garage where they did car repair.
The original structure where Cafe 123 was an old hotel from like the 1800s. Yeah. And then that huge garage where the Pub of Love was, that was an actual.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Pub of Love.
Right. The Pub of Love was in the corner of, there was a huge auto garage that was built onto the hotel. And the hotel, I don't know what it was, some kind of, but then all the land right across was nothing. There were, streets, but it was all owned by the state. So all that, empty land up the state capitol, and now it's all high rises and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But boy,
so Cindy and I have one of those signs from the courtyard of the Pub of Love.
No kidding.
So those wooden hand painted signs. So when they closed it, we stole one. It says, "God is love, and so is fried chicken." And it's been in her kitchen for 20 years.
Man, we were just awesome. We were such an eclectic group. Ken, you would have fit right in, man. You and Vicky would have fit right in. We were all just, different people of different ages. And that's what made Nashville, I think. Because growing up there, I grew up in Bellevue. Go ahead.
A crazy story. A guy named Daniel Tashin used to play music at 12th and Porter. And when he was like 18, he had a Sony record deal and it never went anywhere. And so he would do little side gigs. And he was very talented. So about 6 years ago, I'm watching the Grammys and he wins one. So this guy I used to see at 12th and Porter. Don't see him for 20 years. I'm watching TV and he's accepting a Grammy. So you would see those kind of stories. You still see those kind of stories.
Hell, I was Keith Urban's bartender, and he doesn't drink no more. Not a regular, but he lived Ann and Richard, my friends who worked at Mirror. Keith Urban lived in the house. It was a house cut up into apartments right across the hall. And he was
okay. I used to hang out. I met Keith the third day he came to town.
Oh yeah.
We used to hang out when he lived in Berry Hill.
Yeah, that's where. Do you remember Ann and Richard?
Did they drive the white Chevy Nomad wagon?
I don't think so.
That's somebody different.
But yeah, it was between. It was like between. They lived somewhere like up behind Zany's there, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, that was his second house. He lived in a house a block and a half from Zany's on. I can't remember the street. That's when he started having success. He moved into that house.
Yeah, because Ann and Richard lived across the hall from him, but he used to come into Mirror just from time to time. But he's a swell guy, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
Because I heard Nicole Kidman is just not very friendly at all.
I know somebody who saw her totally naked at the Y at the Green Hills. Apparently, she was running around naked in the ladies' locker room, unabashedly. But she's.
The last time I saw a naked woman was it was 4 years ago.
Last night.
It was a presidential debate, and as neither one of you guys have ever been to this palatial apartment, but on the landing, of course, there's right next door is Art and Evelyn, this super cool young couple, and they're going to have their first kid. And then right across our doors are like door to door, is Marissa Hoffman, who has been featured on the Bob Dean Show. Yay! Because she broke her boyfriend's penis, and that's a whole nother episode y'all need to go and watch because you will learn a lot about if your girl is riding you and she falls and you break a blood vessel, and we all laugh about it. Well, her boyfriend came on, JW, and I thought he would just joke about it. He was very frank and got out the device that you have to have therapy in and everything. But anyway, she is Pam Anderson's body double in the episodes about younger year things, and she's just a piece of work. So anyway, all three of our doors are here. There's a landing. And then the $2 million condo, which is just across the driveway, is right there. Point about the last time I saw a naked woman, a young woman moved in, and she had not closed her plantation shutters in the bedroom. So when you're standing on the landing, you can see directly into the master bedroom. And she was watching, it was a night of Joe Biden's speech. And she was laying on the bed with all the lights on, and she was pleasuring herself, if I may say. And I can't remember what night it was, but I had a couple of days off, and I know I was on my fourth Bloody Mary or whatever. And I went to call the cat in, and I opened the door, and I was like, and of course I was like, so naturally doing the gentlemanly thing, I watched her for a while, and then I'm like, Dennis, come here. And he comes out, and he's like, what? And I go, look, so we were like the heads like this, one here, one here. And we're just laughing, that poor little thing. And then I called Marissa, like, come here, watch. So anyway, it was kind of perverted what we're doing. But anyway, I don't know how I got on that subject, except how did I
know one story I'd like to hear one of your stories.
What's that? Go ahead.
The one about in Miami with the crabs in the parking garage.
Dude, seriously, people don't believe that story, and I forget about it, and I need to. Oh, by the way, ladies and gentlemen,
one of the best stories ever.
I will be performing at the Ha Ha Club. 7:30 doors open. Showtime's 8:00 on Thursday, August 1st in North Hollywood. So please come along. Get your tickets online. But yeah, Kenny. So my buddy David and I moved from Nashville to Miami. As a matter of fact, he sent me a picture yesterday. I'm going to see if I can show it on here. And we're just two guys. I told mom and dad that I had like $5,000 in the bank because I had quit school and
Right.
Everything ended up, but I had like $300, and the last thing Mom said to me when I was backing down the driveway was, "Give me back that American Express card." So I knew I was on my own. And David Clanton, who is still one of my best friends to this day, he lives in Miami Lakes, and he and his lovely wife Ron have been married for years. His daughter Ray Clanton is a photographer and model here in LA. She has a podcast. Hi, Ray. And anyway, long story short or longer, is that we were sleep. We moved down there to work for this restaurant. We were sleeping on everybody's sofas. There were like 4 guys living in a 1-bedroom apartment, taking turns, 2 on the bed, 1 on the sofa, 1 on the floor, and we rotated, that sort of thing. But we saved every nickel, and we ended up getting an apartment in this gorgeous high-rise right on Biscayne Bay. And it was stunning. And the parking garage was an open-air garage, but it was right across from the suburb Keystone Point, if any of y'all know. It's an old beautiful subdivision where everybody's got a boat in the back and all. And the canal ran back, and I knew nothing about South Florida living, zero. And I came home and I was hammered, of course. This is back when you could drink and drive without guilt. And okay, hold on. Let me see here. Now, I don't know if y'all can see this picture. Okay, see, that's me and David when I had hair. All right. So anyway, this is us we're living in this high rise, and I had this big Olds 98 coupe, and I parked about 10 spaces from the residence. All the details report from the residence entrance, and where the mailboxes and all were. So I get out and I'm wearing cowboy boots. I'll never forget. And I'm clomp, and it's about 3:30 in the morning, and I hear this like this really loud clattering. And I stop and I turn around and nothing. And the garage is, really lit up bright with the neon and everything. I mean, new lighting. And as I take a few more steps, I hear this. And I stop and I turn around, nothing. I take a few more steps and I turn around again. And this blue crab that had the one eye thing that goes around like this. And I swear to God, that it was like nuclear. It was 2 feet off the ground. And it comes running out from behind a brown Cadillac Seville. Never forget it. And it's running at me and it's going. And it's running like sideways, and I'm looking at it. I'm squatted down when I could squat down on my knees, and I'm looking at it like, what the? And then I realize it's getting closer. So I stand up and I'm walking backwards, looking at it, and I realize it's gaining on me, going. So I started running backwards, and then I turn around, and I get my keys in my pocket, and I'm like, and I get to the glass doors, and I jam the key, and I go, whoosh, pull the door open, I pull back, whoosh, and it locks right when that crab goes up against the glass, and it's got his little eye things, we're going, and he's going, and he's biting at the glass. And I'm pounding on the elevator. There's 2. I'm pounding on the button, and I'm screaming out loud, "Hurry!" It scared the crap out of me, man. And then I research it, and those crabs, you can be a little aggressive.
You think?
Thanks for reminding me about that. And that's where Tracy.
Hey,
go ahead.
You want to hear another great story with little insect things?
Please.
So we were when I was flying with the Navy, we were doing some drug ops in the Caribbean, and we went ahead and spent a few nights in Curacao. So we land there, and of course, to save money, we stayed on. We don't. Unlike the Air Force, we stay in the actual, military barracks instead of the hotels, So we were with the Dutch Navy, and we're staying in their hotel, and then it was nice quarters and everything. But anyhow, so of course, doing the things that we do the best, and we went out in town that night and just got totally hammered. I mean, just falling down drunk. So we get in the cab, and we come back to our rooms on the base. And I'm sitting in the front seat of this cab, and I pull up, and of course the lights of the cab are going down this little road, and it looks like the road's moving, And I'm like, holy shit, I drank a lot, because the whole damn road starting to do this. I go, oh, this is going to be interesting. Until I opened the door, put one foot on the ground, I heard crunch. I went, what the fuck? I looked down. It was just this mass of roaches. I mean, cockroaches. Oh! Millions of them, And I'm like, why aren't they going into the rooms, which
Ugh.
is good. But here, because, the Dutch and the Curacao, they don't give a shit about DDT. They just sprayed the shit out of the whole damn place. And so all the bugs and everything stayed out there, which was fine, and we could stay in our room. But man, at night, these guys came out and they were everywhere. And I was like, oh my goodness. So, needless to say, we sobered up pretty fast.
Yikes.
Yeah, it was.
I had those things. I moved into a guest house in Miami Shores, and it had originally been the maid's quarters, and nobody had lived in the upstairs. It was a 2-story thing, and the bedroom had one. It was built in like 1920. One door was a commode and a vanity and a sink. The second door was a shower, and the shower was big. It was like 4 by 5, and it was all tiled. And the fixtures were directly into the wall in the shower head. And so I go in and I turn the water on in the shower, and it's doing that old, water coming up. And the shower drain didn't have a cap on it, a screen or nothing. And I'm watching the brown water come out, and all of a sudden this thing goes whoosh, and it flies by. I look down, and it was a colony of palmetto bugs, which are the flying roaches. Yeah, I mean, it was like that movie Creep Show, where the guys live in the classroom and these things are coming out like spreading over each other like this. And I screamed like a little girl and slammed the bathroom door was wooden, right? There was a little thing, and the water ran for 2 days because I would open the thing and they were like Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. They were all up on the shower thing. They're all on the walls, Those things were nasty.
Oh, they're ugly, yeah. They're bad news.
I was entertaining one night, and as classy as I am, at 3 a.m. with candles burning, and we decided to take a little break, and I reach over for my can of Miller Lite, and thank God I didn't open my lips. I was pursed my lips, so I was taking a sip, and I heard the can go, and this palmetto bug ran across my face, and when I had hair, into my hair. So that was kind of a mood breaker. Those things are gross.
Yeah.
Well, Boyer, the cicadas were in Nashville this year, right, Boyer?
Yeah, we had them. It wasn't as crazy as about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
It was they weren't that bad, and I like to listen to them.
Well, they are, interesting. I remember when I was driving to work at Mirror, and I had that old Bonneville convertible. When I was on the freeway, with all the noise from that top being down, I could still hear them, like chittering.
Wow.
Yeah, well, 15 years ago, you'd go into the grocery store and 50 of them would fly in the door when the automatic door opened.
Yeah.
But it wasn't nearly as bad this year.
I wonder if that has anything to do with global warming.
I think they just overdid the prediction.
So what's the newest and most, because we're running out of time here. What is the newest and most exciting thing that you think is in Nashville? Like, what?
Maybe Top Golf.
Top Golf?
I've been there. Top Golf?
Yeah.
It's that thing. They're all over the country. They're like 5 stories, and you get drunk. You hit a golf ball that has a computer chip in it, and you look at this green. But I'm afraid of heights. So when I went with my little nephew, I had to just sit down and watch. Because you're exposed. You're like 4 stories high, and if you fall, there's just a net that catches you.
Yeah.
I'm terrified of heights too.
Check out some of the YouTube videos on the Top Golf guys falling in the nets. It's hysterical.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh yeah.
I'll look at that too.
It's like, hey, nothing better than putting a big club in somebody's hand and a bunch of beer. Yeah, nothing can go wrong here. And there you go.
Where's it located, Boyer?
It's down near Cowan Street. Remember where the Connection was, that huge gay bar?
Yeah.
So it's down in that area.
Oh yeah, that's where whatchamacallit, Cajun's Wharf was.
Yeah, that was the Connection that turned into.
Yeah, years and years ago. Yeah.
I still had people still talk about that club.
What, the Connection?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
And maybe it's a longing for the good old days, because Nashville is so insane. Every time I go out, there's a house that's been torn down totally.
See, I can't
because they're putting up too tall and skinnies, and there's so many new restaurants I can't keep up with them.
And let me tell you what,
and I just sort of live in my own little bubble in the Belmont area in 12 South.
Well, that neighborhood will never change, hopefully. And I mean, like, whatchamacallit, what's the Bi-Rite? And
I go to the Bi-Rite every day.
That's was my favorite store in all Nashville. And whatchamacallit, the 70s, the Arco station right there. Who's the proprietor?
Polly's Amico.
Polly's Amico. Yeah.
It's still there.
I could live in that neighborhood forever. But
the Bi-Rite, they just improved it. They put in wood floors. They put in the original tin ceiling. They've got better produce and food, but they still make their own pimento cheese and they still make their own pies.
I hope that place never goes. Kenny, it's just a supermarket like when we were kids where you knew the ladies with the big beehive hairdos and all. And you know what? And this is not kidding at all. If I hear one more person in Beverly Hills where I work at the Mosaic Hotel, 125 South Spalding, please feel free to read the reviews about me that I just learned in Travelocity and all those things. Apparently some people are saying some good things about me, and all I'm doing is hustling a tip. But because I am an actor and a comedian, which means I'm a bartender. But if one more person, and I'm telling you, I hear it in the supermarket. I hear it when I'm getting my hair cut. I hear it in the lobby of where I work every day. Somebody goes, oh my God, we just got back from Nashville and had so much fun. Nashville is so cool. We are moving there. And I'm telling you, I hear it 3 to 4 times a day. Like, oh my God. And they go and they spend 3 days in Nashville and they go down to Lower Broadway and get drunk. And that's, and then they come back saying it's the coolest place ever. And I love saying, Lower Broadway, when I was growing up there, it had 2 peep shows and 1 adult theater. And then I go, but of course, I'd never entered any of those.
I think it had about 6 peep shows. Yeah.
Well, but I know that there was Tootsie's and Roberts were there.
Yeah.
And then and you know what? Hey, you remember that La Caja Fall? The drag, like Wendy.
It had Spaghetti Factory.
Well, listen, Wendy Clancy and her husband, Ken Couric, they're very dear friends of mine. She owned that damn thing.
Wow.
She's a self-made woman. She's a LA native. She worked with ABC News and all this sort of thing. She was in Nashville for a long time. She and Tamara Pakwa are best friends. They met in Nashville. Tamara introduced me to Wendy, and Wendy and Ken, we had become very, very, very like family. But isn't that interesting? The 6 degrees of separation. She owned that building and the club, but they were just ahead of their time,
Okay.
So it's just a little 6 degrees of separation there. But yeah, these people are like, oh my God, I love Nashville. I'm like, what do you love about it? What? And I hate to be such a negative Nancy or whatever. We have to wrap it up. That's Sam saying we have to wrap it up. So listen, fellas, sincerely, I love you both. And I want to thank you for saving the Bob Dean Show today. Yay. And Cindy Bell, I hope you feel better. Kathy St. George will be coming back as co-host eventually. Dennis Olsen as well. But Boyer, I'm sorry we couldn't see your face. Please give Cindy a big smooch and tell her we plugged the boutique today. And Ken, give Vicky a big smooch. And I love you guys. And tell your friends to tune into LA Talk Radio for you can listen to the show and watch and that sort of thing.
Awesome.
All right, brother.
Any other comments?
Love you, buddy. Take care.
All right, guys. God bless America. Thank you.
You're listening to The Bob Dean Show, only on LA Talk Radio.